Hi, welcome to the Chamber Connection Show. I'm Mary Hutchinson, president of the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, and I'm so happy to be back in the studio today. Of course, we have Matt and Liz behind the camera, and we are here to just be excited to be around people. And also, we are socially distancing today, and socially distanced from me is Lisa Berg, the director of the Hutchinson Center for the Arts. Welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, right. So this has been a different time for nonprofits.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I thought it would be really good to give people an understanding of what has happened to the nonprofit world during COVID, because I know that they hear a lot about businesses.
They sure do.
They better be, because that's what I'm talking about. But I thought nonprofits are really an important part of our community, and we have so many. And then I thought we could talk a little bit about arts in general and why it's important to have arts in a community and what it does for the community. So
Sure.
you game?
I'm game.
Perfect. So why don't you just share with us a little bit about what it's been like for a nonprofit, your nonprofit specifically, since March 17th.
So the Art Center is an arts and culture nonprofit, so it's maybe a little bit different than maybe the Food Shelf or something like that. So our programming, everything we do about the Art Center is about connecting with people in person, right? So everything has changed. We've been really adaptive. We've been really creative. But there is the same downfall as a lot of businesses. So a lot of our earned revenue has got swept away. We couldn't have our annual gala, which is a big part of what we do every year to get some income. That's 10% of our operating budget. A lot of our fee-based arts education programs, those are all gone. We also, at the Art Center, if you've ever been down there, it's a beautiful space. So we have a private rental program. So all of that has been squashed. So that's sort of what's happened economically there, but we've been working hard to cut expenses and find sources of support through PPP loans,
right?
CARES money, things like that.
Dollars, things like that. So most, not all, but most nonprofits could apply for PPP. For those of you who are like, okay, acronyms, that is Payroll Protection Program through the federal government that had to be done through local banks. Yep. Right? And then we have the CARES Act money that came through the state, city, county, those things, and you could apply for those as well.
Yep. And then we still have our other funding sources through we are on the second year of our cycle for the city funding. We get a state's SMOC, Southwest Minnesota Arts, gives us operating support. So those things have happened. So the important thing to remember with all nonprofits and all the arts and culture groups in the area is there's still expenses that stayed. And so when you're thinking about, well, Riversong didn't have the festival, but Riversong still had some expenses. And the theater company didn't have their shows, but they still had some expenses. So I think a good way to support the nonprofits in a really easy way is to think about the events you would have attended.
Okay.
And hand over that as a donation this year.
That's a great idea.
Yep. So if you were going to go to Riversong, maybe just pay for your ticket anyway. It's really easy. The Art Center, if you go to our website, hutchinsonarts.org, there's a donate button right on the main screen. And with one click, you can allocate funds to every arts and culture group that you would like to.
Aha.
So then that way, if you were going to go to Riversong, if you were going to see a play, if you were going to go see a choir concert, you could just
take a craft arts class.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you will allocate those funds to those groups.
So you just brought up a really good point for those people who aren't familiar with the Center for the Arts. You're an umbrella. Mm-hmm. So how many organizations do you have underneath that umbrella?
We have 11, and I like to call it a platform of support.
Okay.
It's really, we're back of house for a lot of those organizations. We provide everything from fiscal sponsorship, so if they're not a 501c3, we can serve as their sponsor for them to get grant funding, things like that, accept donations. We are storage, secure storage, and a safe space, and liability insurance. So these are a lot of pretty unsexy things. I like to call them unsexy things because it's not programs for kids. It's not.
But it's kind of like your house. Like the plumbing and the HVAC is not sexy, but it's really important.
Yep. So even though all of these groups and the Art Center is not having big public events, we still have to pay our liability insurance bill. We still have to pay the rent. We still have to do those things. So that's that.
You still have to heat and cool the building.
We do.
And you still have to actually have the lights go on and pay that bill.
Especially because the Art Center is still really active. The gallery is open. We have safety protocols for people to follow. So there's always been an exhibit, even from the shutdown. I think, when was it, March? No.
March 17th was the day at 5 o'clock. I remember that because it was St. Patrick's Day.
Because that was the time where we had the annual youth art exhibit was about to open. And anybody that's been there, you love that. Everybody loves that show. So we just shoved all our movable walls and hung up all the work. And so it was visible 24 hours a day. We just kept the lights on and people could walk by and see the work until we were able to open again. And then our exhibit program started up again.
So just one of the
So we
ideas,
didn't miss a beat.
Right. No, you were able to be really nimble and roll right into that. And that was really important for a lot of people because I would think, having been to several different shows, and I'm one of those who like to come in through the back door on an afternoon when I don't have anything else to do, when I need a break, and I walk through and look at the exhibits that way. But I keep hearing about the youth exhibit being really big and people, lots and lots of people coming. So all of a sudden you can't allow people in, but you have those great big windows and doors that you could utilize.
It's nice to be in a fishbowl sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was serendipitous. Look at that. Woo! I might have to take a nap after that.
And then with the other exhibits, so they're still open for people to come view, but we've taken away the public component of the gallery reception. We're doing Zoom talks, and those have been really successful. And that's actually, obviously, I always want people in the space looking at the artwork, being able to talk like this with the artist. But great things happen in those Zoom talks. And we just had one last week for the show that's currently up, and someone from Australia was there, and I was like, this is cool.
That is cool. Right? One of the things that, so many people are like, oh, those Zoom calls, I'm so sick of them. But it does extend your reach past your typical boarders and your typical viewers.
Yep.
Because let's be honest, it's really easy to check in from your couch when you've already got your dinner or your glass of wine and you want to check and see what's going on. So I love that you did that and that you are feeling the love from all across the world. From Australia. Okay, so let's talk about that current exhibit. And I think Matt has some photos of the beadwork. So let's talk about
Malays. This is two artists. Chris Allen is from the Rochester area and Liz Miller is from Mankato. And they are textile artists. And so the work is, I'm trying to get us all into flow where it started. So when the exhibit program at the Art Center is continual, and so we book it a year in advance. So there's an annual call for artists to present exhibits and proposals. And so this was two artists that applied separately. And I immediately saw there were so many connections with color and tying knots and textile and contemporary textile. And so I asked them to show together, and they did. And so at the time, we did not know when I accepted this show that there would be a global pandemic and that people would be anxious and nervous. And so the work really kind of came together at the very end, where their work started to change a little in response to the crisis. And so then that's how it came together. So if you move through those slides, so these are, can I point on the chamber show? These are small rocks, and these are the work of Chris Allen, the Rochester artist, and she does the peyote stitch. So they're not glued on there. She's actually stitching all around the rocks and other objects she has in there.
Oh my goodness.
And then I think there's one of a mask, a face mask, is that right? Yep. So here's one that she's made in response to the current conditions of
I love that.
Yep.
I'm looking at it, it's obviously a butterfly, but I'm looking at Liz off camera because it could have easily been a honeybee, and then she and I both would have wanted to get it after the show. I think that's interesting for people to be able to see art in a response to a crisis like this.
Yep.
Because artists have such a way of viewing the world, but then to view this in a different way for them although nobody wants a pandemic, it has to be a little bit exciting to have something that you're literally reacting to. You're an artist.
I'm an artist.
Can you talk about
well,
that?
I think that what's important to remember is that how we know anything about any particular time in history and past ancient cultures is through the things they made.
Sure.
So I think that, if you think about what you know about the ancient Greeks, the Romans, everything, we know it through the objects they made. And most of those are art objects. So those are the things that are preserved. So, if you think of all the things that are preserved, that this was felt to be important. If you look at ancient churches, the stained glass, these paintings, these are the things that are preserved. And these are the stories that we want to tell that reflect our time period.
Absolutely.
So
I never thought about it that way. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. And I think that it's oftentimes artists don't necessarily know what they're doing specifically, but they're just responding. And so then the other work in the show are those tapestry kind of macrame things.
Ooh, okay.
So this is a work of Liz. These are very large. These are about my height, so 5 foot 10 inches.
Holy
and so
moly.
Liz Miller is someone that does installation.
Let's just put that in perspective. It's longer and taller than Mary.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think that you're like half Lisa and or I'm double Mary.
When we stand next to each other talking, it's
I think she comes to my waist. So anyway, Liz Miller is a very well-known nationally installation artist. Installation art is where you take a bunch of materials and create a site-specific experience in a space. And so she's recently transitioned into this new work that's about knot tying and perceptions of structure and also anxiety and a nod to macrame hangings. So they're really beautiful and intense, and when you start to look at them closely, you'll see her interest in painting and drawing and all the line work and the shadows. So they're really sculptures, they're almost like drawings, they're paintings, and then they're also textile works.
Now, one of the things that I had forgotten to mention to you when I was at your office last time, and I saw it again when I was flipping through some images that you put on Facebook, the backdrops have a color on them. And if you've been to the center in the past, they've always been white.
Well, not always. We'll change the color for the exhibits however it needs to be. So,
I don't know that I recall. I know I don't recall. I just don't remember. I'm old. I can't help it. That I don't remember having a color. But this makes those colors that they're doing just pop even more.
Yep. So that's intentional, that we knew that we wanted to really transform the space. And that green is, if we would know, the pediatrician's office from our childhood, this kind of like anxiety green. Yes. Remember?
Yes, I do.
Mary and I are of an age.
Oh, yes.
So that green is sort of an attempt to get some ink. It's a combination of really exciting and strange and mysterious and also a little uneasy. And so that was the intention of the green. And it really creates the reflection of the light in the space, creates an overall hue. And so that color experience impacts the experience of being in the exhibit. And for me, my guide to looking at art is always to stop just limited to yourself as this is an object. I'm looking at this painting of a still life. I'm looking at this ropes on a wall, and really sort of start to think about it as triggers for experiences.
Okay.
So to kind of think about how does it make you feel? What's the environment like? So you can delve a little deeper for yourself, is to just be like, what is this experience I'm about to have?
I love that. I love that. It always makes me, even if there's some art, because I know that some people are a little sensitive about art, right? Some people would say that this isn't art, it's a bunch of ropes hanging, right?
Well, it partly is a bunch of ropes hanging.
But it's about...
That would be accurate.
Right? But when you start looking at it in a different way, like you're saying, then you realize I've learned a lot in this space over the years.
Yeah. Just
watching and looking what other people are seeing and feeling. And some of it makes me really uncomfortable. And some of it I just immediately fall in love with. Mm-hmm. And others of it I'm like, that just makes me think, I'm going to have to kind of process that for a while. And that's what it's meant to do.
The mission of the Visual Arts Exhibition Series is to have a broad range of voices and materials. So when you've been following along, we don't have painting show after painting show after painting show. So that's the intent, is to have a broad range of Minnesota artists. They're all working professional artists, different career stages. We have emerging artists, we have very established artists. So, but that's the intent, is to bring in a range of materials and a range of voices. So will people respond to everything? Maybe not. Right? But that's not the intent necessarily.
Right.
The intent is to have that range of experience.
The exposure is really important. And these are things that somebody didn't just throw some ropes together. This was very intentional.
Yep. And if you know anything about macrame, which I'm sure some of the people will that are watching,
there's some
you'll see the influence of that easily.
Patience. That's what that is. That's patience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think it's really interesting for people to know that don't know you, that you are an artist, you have that background, you're married to an artist, you teach, you do it all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Not
you do
on
it
the
all.
same day.
Good point. Look at that. Dry right off the top. I love it. What's it like for you as an artist to be able to help display other artists' work?
I love working with artists, and I think that Minnesota has great artists, and part of the reason Minnesota has great artists is because Minnesota funds the arts. And those legacy dollars have done so much for this economically, culturally, right? So I'm a go legacy funds, and just want to remind you, we get like 1/10 of every penny from that. So don't think that the arts are getting a lot. We're getting 1/10 of every penny.
Right.
But that impact is that we have so many great artists doing so many great things, so that when we have that call every year, I get 40 to 50 applicants. I have 8 slots, right?
Wow.
And we're getting really, Liz Miller is, she's been a McKnight recipient. She's had national awards, a Joan Mitchell Award, which is a $30,000 grant. So she teaches at the University of Mankato. So we have a great range of very prestigious artists coming to the community, and then the ability to communicate with them via the Zoom talks now, or
Right.
So, and then the other thing I want to talk about, I have a lot to talk about.
Go for it.
But so Chris Allen, who did the beadwork, you can switch back to one of her rocks. So initially, before COVID, she was going to come and do a beading workshop where everyone could sign up and make some earrings, but then COVID happened. So what she did, she's so awesome. She's given us all the materials and a little kit to make this earring, and then a step-by-step. This is just part of it. So she's outlined and taken pictures. This is how you do it step-by-step. So we can't meet in person for this, but again, we're creative, we're adaptable. You can come and pick up the kit. So they're $10 for members, $15 for not yet members. So
That's genius.
yeah.
Okay, so how did they get
They
get
just come
this?
down to the center
Okay, they can come down to, they
and
can
pick
give
up
you a
their kit,
call,
and
get
you'll
more
get
information.
you'll get the kit, and these are they're really big actually.
Yeah.
I was gonna wear one today, but
You should have.
I
Yeah.
know.
But then you'd be like,
So anyway, it'll be fun, and don't be confused. So she talks a little about what the peyote stitch is, and it'll be step by step by step, so you will be able to do it.
okay, one of the other things that you do that I love is the children's programs that you have.
Yep.
So let's talk about those.
Well, so one of the things that we do every month is the Art Kids Drop-In Day, and that's a program for preschool children and their caregivers, and it's really designed as using art to get kids to be able to socialize and help build community, create some equity, remove obstacles. One thing about struggling in a community, it was originally started as to help less fortunate people build a community and get those kids to have some socialized preschool experiences, because it's really easy to get lost and need help. Let's say you don't have a car because it broke down, but you don't have anyone to give you a ride. If you have a neighbor, if you have a friend, these are tools that need to help. You need to succeed in getting a leg up. You can't just be given money. You need a community. So that's the part. The Art Center's everything is about building a community down there. So that's how the program started. And so what would happen at Art Kids Drop-In Day, which makes it not COVID friendly, is there would just be different creative stations for kids to come and work. And if you've ever been around 3-year-olds, sharing material, it just didn't work. So what we did was we transferred a program. We started out with just taking supplies on hand and putting little kits together, and we just do them every week now, and we've gotten a little bit of funding. So we're going to continue it through the end of the year, and then hopefully next year, if we're still in this situation, we're planning that we will be, right, for the foreseeable future, we're going to expand the kits out a little bit more, so they'll be monthly instead of weekly, but they'll be a little more in depth. Okay. However, but with the kits, you don't just get supplies, you get a suggestion on how to use materials. Now, Lisa will always say that the materials, there's never a project at Art Center where everyone makes the same snowman. You might all be given cotton, but there's no suggestion that you have to make a snowman with it. So the kits are always, there's a guidance of like the tips on how to use an idea or a concept in art making, like printmaking, like sculpture, like drawing, right? So that's the idea of the materials. And then I'll always add ways for people to add other lessons and other learning opportunities. Like, how could you turn this into a math idea? How could you turn this into a reading idea? And then there's also ways to expand on an art. So we want the kids to have a project, but we want to add meaning and deepen the experience for them. And so this was a project we did where we had leftover cardboard and kids were just given the materials and said, make a sculpture, and then they're all on display in the windows all the time now. So that's what those two great kids, this is a birthday cake and that's a bee.
I love
Specifically, that's her 6th birthday cake.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So this week we had color diffused leaves, where it was a material that diffuses watercolor. So there was a lesson on how to use that as watercolor and color mixing, and then how to turn that into a print. And then there was a link to why do the leaves change color, and also a link to the history of artists using autumnal themes throughout history and artwork and what that means. So
you're getting some science in there, you're getting a little history
and all
in
the
there.
kits are completely adaptable for any age. A 1-year-old can approach the kit, an 18-year-old,
50 or something, would be able to do that. Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's how those kits work. And so they're free every Wednesday.
So what else do you want to tell us about the Center for the Arts? You've got so many different things. You've been adapting, going to continue to adapt.
Always. That's what creative people do.
Because that's what it is, right? What else? How can people help you? What else can people be looking for?
I think funding is important now. Remember when we talked about all that earned revenue we've lost? So again, consider making a contribution to the Art Center and the organizations for the activities you would have attended this year. I think we always need volunteers to come and sit in the gallery, help with programming. Those are some key areas right now. And I know other arts organizations, arts and culture organizations might need that same kind of support. And so if you are interested in history, if you're interested in music, you can just call me and I can get you hooked up into those groups. The photo club might want some members. So that's being involved, clicking in.
Okay. So what would surprise people about the center?
How much happens down there, and what we do, and how much of an impact on the economy. You know, we bring in $1 million a year through all these cultures. So the impact on the economy is great. So arts economy is no joke.
Right.
Right.
So people are like, I'm sorry, did she say that brings in $1 million? So
if you combine all the revenue,
on that a bit,
so if you bring in all the revenue from all the arts that happen in a year, that's $1 million in revenue towards this community. And just an example of, yesterday there was someone from Rochester visiting the show to see their friend Chris's work, and they were like, where should we go next? And so the gallery sees a lot of regional draw, that because of the nature and the professional reputation of the artists, people are coming to see those artists specifically in that space. And they don't just come to the Art Center and leave. We all know when someone comes to Hutchinson as a tourist, they don't say, I'm just going to go to this one spot and then I'm going to head out of town. No, they go everywhere. So that's what the arts do. Yeah,
and I think that as a generalization, I understand this is generalization, most people don't realize that has a ripple effect in the community. I will tell you, I haven't shared this with you yet. We had a couple who came in a few days ago, and they're looking at relocating as they retire, and they're looking at Hutchinson, and they were so excited when there was actually a brochure with the word art on it. And I'm like, oh, well, we have two, right? So we can give them that. People are looking for those types of activities, that type of presence in a community when they're looking to relocate.
Sure. They want their kids to be able to do something.
They want to be able to do something. They want to be able to go to the museum and see something, right? They want to be able to go somewhere, see and do.
Yep.
And so that's really important. And I think that as we continue, you've taught me already so much, but I think as we continue to evolve through COVID and through whatever else life is going to bring us, we're going to find that is more and more going to help bring us together as well. Okay, so coming up, so you have 8 shows a year. How long is this show up for?
This one's up through middle of November. And then after that, we're going to have a painter. So this from Mankato area, and she deals with botanical and aviator themes. So just a change of pace. They're going to be pictorial paintings. So
that's exciting.
Yeah. Again, like I said, there's always just something different.
And that will run from the end of November through
the beginning of January.
Okay.
Yep.
You got to have a little time to overlap and.
It usually takes about a week to switch the exhibits out, especially when we paint every wall in the space green, and then we need to paint it back white.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes.
That's what it takes. Oh, gosh. Good for you. So let's give people the contact information again. You gave the website. Let's give them a phone number as well.
587-7278. That was a
7278. 7278. Of course, you can go to explorehutchinson.com and find out, but you can also go to hutchinsonarts.org.
Correct, and that's got links to all of the partner organizations, ways to support us, what's coming up. Just a reminder that we have those art kits every Wednesday, and sometimes we don't go through them all, so you could probably just come anytime and say, hey, you have any art kits? But generally how that works is we just open it up at noon. It's safe pickup. We just put them on a table and you can come and pick them up at noon until they're gone.
Okay, great.
You don't have to call and say, you don't have to verify how many kids you have. It's just one kit per kid. You don't have to bring the kid with you. If you say I have 6 kids, I'm going to be like, okay, here's 6 kids.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
That people don't even recognize and see yet. Because there's so much that happens that you can't ever know. No. Exactly what's happening. Any last thoughts for our viewers today? Last thoughts on art.
Take time. I think that when we talk about the arts tourism, we forget as people that live and work here, it's for you too. So take time to explore your own backyard. I mean, I think about when I lived in the Bay Area, I hardly ever went to the beach. Right, so I would say go and look at the sculpture stroll, come down to the gallery and see what's there, walk around town and look at the murals, just know that it's there for you too.
Yeah, if you go to the Center for the Arts, it's not like somebody's going to come up behind you if you want to look at things. It's not like they're going to, okay, and how do you feel about this? How is this making you feel?
No
do you feel this is a period of
time? No,
no,
there's no pressure.
You can walk in and can have...
Always free. Yeah. There's no pressure for you to... have to verbalize anything to anybody. We read the room really quick. If you want a lot of space or if you want to chat all day, we'll figure it out.
Great.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that you will take some time to explore the Center for the Arts. Right off of Franklin, we should tell everybody where you are.
Right behind Sellers. That's how I also spread it.
Yeah, and right across the street from the police station.
Yep.
Off
right
of Franklin.
Them.
So super easy to find. Follow the signs because now we've got even big, pretty tourism signs up. But go and explore. And like Lisa said, go explore the art stroll. Go see some of the things that are in our community that maybe you haven't taken the opportunity. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today.
Sure.
And we will see you next month on the Chamber Connection.